Do you know those moments where you are with other people and you do or say something, but the desired outcome turns the exact opposite? For example, you say or do stuff because you want to be validated or you want to be seen and acknowledged. But what happens is the others just turn their backs and don't want to listen to you and think that, I don't know, whatever you have to say is not really valid. And if you put yourself in the position of the one who is with another person who really, really wants to be validated, noticing it within oneself, how does it feel? Because for me, usually it feels like, oh, there's someone who's so desperate and needs validation because they are not loved or they don't have the feeling that they're being seen, and it creates some sort of expectation on me that I'm now the one responsible to validate that person. And in my system, I feel it as if it's like, ooh, I don't want to go there, and then I just, I reject that person. And what it does, it just perpetuates the situation. So you kind of reject the person feels even more unloved. What happens then? They try even harder in order to be seen and validated and do all sorts of things and receive pushbacks one after another. And then a belief sentence creeps in: I'm not loved, I am not seen, I am not valid, or whatever I have to say, it's not valid or not true or whatever, And I would like to challenge these interactions that we're having with one another. Because every time I catch myself where I reject the other person because they're in a certain energy signature that feels like, oh my God, these guys are so desperate, or they're not aligned, or they're not centered. But in order to kind of run away from the situation or kind of push it away, I'm catching myself having that thought of not wanting to interact. And my practice there is to look behind the outer persona, whatever they're trying to do and say, but to look into the essence, to look into the why, to look into the motives. And usually what I do encounter there is this true longing of being loved. And it doesn't mean that now I have to pour all of my love into their lack of love, but for me it's more of a question of how do I change my own rejection patterns and look at the situation, look at the person with compassion. And it's not about validating them in their lack mentality, but for me it's more of a looking with eyes of compassion and looking to their essence, looking at the actual being that is there in front of me. And behind all these masks and roles and needs and longings and desires that is at play, but more for, hey, who is that being in front of me? And putting my attention, my energy more into the essence, because wherever the energy goes, wherever the intention and the attention goes, that's where they also themselves can turn more and more into themselves, find more and more back into their own essence, and understand more and more the whys and what is actually going on in the interactions. Because the moment I interrupt the energy dynamics of the person wants something and I reject, because this is kind of the loop that will go on and on and on for I don't know how long, but I can be the one to step out of the dynamic and to, it's not about, act differently or whatever. It's more of my focus, my attention that goes directly to their core, to their essence, and to actually see them for who they truly are. It's an invitation to go straight to the core of the being and not to engage in all these human interactions that we are so used to play all the time with one another. And eventually it gets boring because it constantly leads to the same old patterns. Yeah, thank you.